The neighborhood secret. It was a hot and sunny day in early August. That night, Colin, Steve, Frank, Chad, and I would spend the night in an abandoned restaurant located in a particular section of my neighborhood. We were all super excited. Never in our lives have we thought we could actually do something as cool and unique as this. The plan was that the five of us would meet up at the restaurant around 5:30 that evening, just so we had time to chill before the sun went down. Actually, make that the four of us for now, because we still had to confirm the plans with one more person, that being Chad. I hopped on my phone and entered the group chat. Here is our exact conversation. Yo, Chad, you up for an overnighter at the abandoned restaurant?
No, can't do, bro. I'd love to chill with y'all, but I've got a date tonight. Gotta score a girlfriend before the school year starts after all.
Come on, bitch. Ditch that hoe. You have a way more lit time at the restaurant anyway, G.
Did you say restaurant?
Yeah, an abandoned one.
Hold that thought, bro. I might actually be able to slide in with you bros after all. My date and I were initially scheduled to browsy our way on over to Magoo's for dinner, but perhaps it'd be more bromantic to tell her I've actually rented out an entire restaurant all to ourselves.
Now my man's talking.
Chad, I highly doubt this place is in any condition for a date. Been abandoned since the early 2000s and it's pretty nasty.
Not a problem, bro. I'll tell you bros what, my date and I should arrive at the joint around 6. By then, I'm sure you bros will have tidied it up a bit. Then we should be good to bro. Now, I'll catch you bros later. I gotta hop in the shower and get ready for my date.
Not gonna lie, I found it kinda ridiculous how Chad expected us to literally wait and serve him and his date at some filthy abandoned restaurant in the middle of an overgrown golf course. But hey, I rolled with it. I low-key think that Steve is ecstatic at the idea of Chad bringing his date, because he then gave me a call saying how he's gonna get some action with Chad's girl by using his new pickup game he learned from some YouTube pickup artist. Fast forward a few hours later, and I hopped in my car and drove on over to the neighborhood village of Eastwinds, which is still my general neighborhood area. I parked in the parking lot, and the whole property was surrounded by woods and dense trees on the front side in the parking lot, and in the back was a vast golf course, though now it was all overgrown and rampant with high grass. This is good though, because it gave the place a sense of isolation, and it also meant that no houses would be able to see us, as what we were doing is a pretty illegal activity. I stepped outside and saw that Steve, Frank, and Colin were already there waiting for me.
What's good, gang?
Said Steve. Hey yo, what's up? I replied.
I'm finna get laid tonight, G.
You don't hear, Steve. I don't think it's a very nice idea to fit with Chad's date.
Frank replied.
Shut your bitch ass up, man. You ain't got a single bitch in your life.
Now this shut Frank up for a while. Anyway, the four of us climbed the steps and walked around the perimeter of the restaurant, and it was shaped like an oval from the outside. We got a good look at the back of the building, which there was a massive outdoor dining area with an outdoor bar and even picnic benches. There was a whole second building to it too, which is likely used for like events and weddings. We soon found a door that was unlocked and led into the main upstairs dining area or kitchen. It was about 20 degrees warmer inside than outside due to there being no electricity, and it was already hot outside. The air smelled musty to a whole new level. Everything was covered in a layer of dust, and the ceiling was stained with some sort of weird substance on the walls, and there were dead rats on the floor. Cockroaches scurried around from underneath tables.
This place is lit, G.
Remember, Steve, no vandalism. We want to keep this place in good condition for future use, Colin cautioned.
Yeah, man. No problem.
Replied Steve as he flipped the table upside down in excitement.
Whoa!
The next 15 minutes were then dedicated to exploring the rest of the restaurant and the property. Colin and I had already seen it, but we figured that we should show Steve and Frank around.
You don't hear, guys. We should probably start cleaning it before Chad's date arrives.
Frank warned. Man, forget his date, I replied. We're here to have a fun night adventure with friends, not to cater to Chad and some random girl. Besides, there's no way we're gonna tidy up this entire place in time.
That's what I be saying, man.
Steve added. And so we continued exploring. The main dining area we entered on was actually the top floor of the place, and there were 2 more stories below us. Those included some downstairs lounge and like a bar area, and below that, the basement. The downstairs bar smelled a little less musty than upstairs, but still kind of weird. It had an old public bathroom, as well as an old cleaning closet, which was the worst thing I've exposed my nostrils to in my life. Oh, what the fuck? Exclaimed Colin as he stumbled back from the closet, and I don't blame him. After we cleared the downstairs bar, we still had one more area to explore, and that was the basement. We had to go down a cramped spiral staircase to get to it. The basement was different than the rest of the restaurant. First of all, it allowed for no natural light to shine in, except for the small exit doors at the end of a long hallway. And since there was no electricity in the building, we had to use our phone flashlights to see. There was some strange fan in one of the rooms that provided some white noise at least. Now the basement, don't get it twisted, it was super sketchy. It's the kind of place that someone would have to pay you $1,000 to go alone at night. It had a ton of random rooms and closets. It was like a maze in there. There were even little areas you could squeeze inside the walls. The whole place is also the nastiest we've seen yet in terms of the restaurant. The floors and ceiling were concrete, and big spiders took massive residence on the walls, and the whole place smelled like a combo of vomit and stale urine. Someone even left a bag of rotting food hanging in the walls. The four of us agreed it'd be best to leave the basement alone for the time being. We began making our way back up the stairs with Colin in front, until we all stopped in our tracks. "Whoa!" exclaimed Colin, nearly falling back on us.
The fuck, gang, you good?
Questioned Steve. "Yeah, but look." Colin then pointed on the wall in front of us, where there sat some weird hybrid of a cricket and a spider, like a combo in a way, or what we now will call sprickets. It was huge. It was absolutely disgusting. Vile. "Hey, let's just go outside another way," I suggested. And that we did. We exited via the back door through the hallway. The fresh air of outside felt incredible after being inside of that restaurant. Luckily for us, Chad and his date rolled into the parking lot in the red convertible just in time as we stepped outside. And so we walked over to greet him.
What's up, bros? I thought you'd meet my date, Sophia,"
said Chad. "Hey," Sophia said awkwardly.
Sup, girl? How you doing?
"So, you guys ready to check out the restaurant?" I asked. "Yeah, I'm starving," Sophia replied.
Wait, bros. I still have to showcase the convertible dance,"
Chad said eagerly. "The what?" Chad then proceeded to fiddle around with his manual stick shift in his car. He then instructed Sophia to step outside for a better view. We all stood back, confused about what he was about to do. Chad remained in the car. He then put on his shades, even though dusk was near him. Next, he tidied up his hair with some Old Spice hair gel before he announced, "Showtime," quote unquote. The front end of his convertible then ever so slightly began bouncing up and down while staying still, for now. I then knew exactly what he was attempting. It was that kind of thing they used to do back in the old school days, where you make your car, like, dance. Surprisingly, after a few minutes, the car actually began bouncing all the way up and down. "Yo!" Chad exclaimed, actually looking frightened. Not 10 seconds later, I guess Chad forgot to put the car in park or whatnot, because the convertible was then sent flying across the parking lot with Chad still in it. The car crashed right into the side of the concrete wall. Chad stepped out to look at the damage. The convertible was completely totaled. Smoke rose from the front engine, and the entire thing was now in pieces.
"No! Not my precious convertible!"
"Hey, sounds like you'll have quite a lot of explaining to do to your pops," Colin said. The rest of us were in shock.
"Oh, no worries, bro. Quick visit to the shop, and it'll drive smooth as new,"
Chad replied. How am I supposed to get back home tonight?" Sophia asked.
"I will take the gentleman's honor of paying for your Uber,"
Chad replied. However, just as Chad stated that he'd pay for Sophia's Uber, we all heard a rustling sound coming from the bushes near the woods, followed by the sight of a mysterious and chubby figure wearing a black hoodie running away. They seemed to be in a sort of hurry, as if they had business to attend to. "Ugh, what creep would eavesdrop on us like that?" said Sophia in disgust.
"No worries,"
Chad replied, all quite nervously though.
"Probably, just the restaurant manager, checking up on us. I actually signed a contract with him earlier, stating that he would not bother us during our lovely date, but it is his restaurant after all, so I guess he was just checking in to make sure all is well,"
Chad explained. Okay, well, I guess we have nothing to worry about then," replied Sophia.
Yeah, girl. Besides, if anyone tries to mess with you, I'll beat their ass.
We all thought nothing of the incident and decided to continue with our night and Chad's date, though this was a huge mistake looking back on it.
"Are you ready to eat?"
Chad asked Sophia. "Yeah, definitely. I still can't believe you could afford to rent out an entire restaurant."
"It was no big deal. Besides, it's one of the many perks of associating with the Dwalski fam."
We entered the now darkening restaurant, and the look on Sophia's face said it all. "Where are the staff?" she asked.
"I got them to take the night off. Instead, my bros here will serve us tonight."
The rest of us simply went along with Chad's little facade. Colin and I led them both to a table, and we went to look for menus. "Is that a dead rat?" exclaimed Sophia. "That's it. I'm done."
No. You still haven't seen the best part of the meal yet. Once the food arrives, you'll be blown away,"
Chad replied, sounding desperate now. Fine," replied Sophia. It was then determined that Steve and Frank would now be the kitchen attendees.
Get in the fucking kitchen, buzzman.
Steve ordered.
"Okay,"
replied Frank. Colin and I decided that we'd have to physically tell Chad and Sophia the menu, since there actually was none. But first, we went into the kitchen to see what food there was available.
Man, they got all sorts of goodies stacked up in this joint.
Marked Steve. Steve was only telling the half-truth, though, because the only food they had in their pantry were moldy dinner rolls, Fritos, cheese balls, rotten lettuce, and an unopened can of tomato sauce. I guess we can work with this, I said. Colin and I went back into the dining area to announce the menu, quote unquote. Okay, now, here are your options for dinner, I announced. We can offer you guys our fresh Italian-style roll dish, or the crispy wafer casserole. Sorry, but since it's only us working here tonight, our options are limited. Oh yeah, and for dessert, we have the sweet and spicy Sprite puree, Colin added.
I'll take the Italian rolls,
Said Chad.
with the sweet and spicy Sprite.
And you? I asked Sophia.
I guess I'll have the,
Crispy casserole? She said reluctantly. Colin and I then went back into the kitchen and told Steve and Frank the orders.
Don't tell Big G. His ass is cooking.
Steve replied. Frank can now put on an old chef hat that I had no idea how he even got that. Frank squealed. The stove wasn't working due to there being no electricity, so the meals would unfortunately be served room temperature. Steve went and joined Colin and I in the dining room, and 5 minutes later, Frank walked out carrying a big tray containing our food.
Italian dinner rolls in this spicy casserole,
Said Frank.
Yep, eat sweet and spicy Sprite.
looking good, bro.
Chad told Frank. Marked Sophia. The food that Frank prepared looked awful. Can't really blame Frank though, even though he really isn't a good cook to begin with, because the food the restaurant had available was already disgusting. The Italian dinner rolls were basically the moldy dinner rolls with tomato sauce poured all over them. The crispy casserole was the cheese balls that were crushed up, then caked in mayonnaise. And finally, sweet and spicy Sprite was the bag of Fritos mashed up into crumbs, and then Sprite was poured in it until it was like some sort of sauce consistency.
What the fuck? I am not eating this.
Stated Sophia. I don't blame her though.
You know what? On second thought, how about we just forget about dinner? Let's just sit here and watch the sunset instead. Isn't that romantic?
Sure, I guess, replied Sophia, pretty bummed out. Though the sunset was pretty good that night, so I think Chad made a good call with that one. He's always known for being quite a smooth guy after all. Seems like no one likes the works of Chef Wormings, I said.
Whatever. More food for me.
Squealed Frank as he dug into the sweet and spicy Sprite.
That's so fast, Miss Brand. Yo, duties as the chef ain't done yet.
Said Steve.
Can I fix you, Steve? Go make me your best tough man's meat. Family need it for my 1 a.m. workout later tonight. Okay.
Replied Frank. He then disappeared back into the kitchen. I kid you not, 3 minutes later, and Frank came back out with Steve's tough man's meal. I couldn't quite make out what it was yet because the plate Frank was carrying appeared to be super tiny, but also super dirty. He also had a little silver dish platter covering it up, so we couldn't see what the dish was.
Let's get it, G. A fancy feast.
Steve remarked. Frank set the plate in front of Steve and took the cover off. Yo! We all exclaimed in disgust. Frank, what the fuck? Steve's tough man's meal that Frank brought out was one of those sprickets, the kind we saw in the basement earlier. Frank had killed it by squashing it with his foot.
Bon appetit!
Frank exclaimed. Steve looked extremely skeptical and for very good reasons. He then remembered, though, that Chad's date was with him, so he knew he had to take action.
It's a perfect grab for building my gains.
He then hesitantly put the spricket into his mouth and he chewed. He then spit it out promptly after.
That's nasty as fuck, man. That tastes like ball sack covered in buzzing man shit.
Steve then snagged the bag of sweet and spicy Sprite from Frank's hand and devoured the entire bag so as to get the taste out of his mouth.
It was me.
Frank said.
That's what you get for messing with a tough man,
replied Steve. 10 minutes later, and sunset was nearing its end. Sophia got a notification on her phone saying that her Uber was almost there. We then all heard the sound of a car honking its horn outside very sporadically. Sometimes fast and sporadic, but also sometimes long and drawn out. That must be my Uber, said Sophia. She then said bye to Chad and hurriedly exited the building. I had a feeling that she was eager to get out of there, and I did not know if Chad would be getting a second date. Anyway, the rest of us glanced out the window and saw the Uber parked down on the main road. However, Colin and I's suspicions were instantly piqued. We saw that her Uber was a blue minivan with a piece of cardboard taped to the side that read Uber on it in very messy handwriting. Hey, come on, we gotta go down there now, I said. We did just that. We sprinted out of the abandoned restaurant and down the road just in time for the Uber driver to roll down the window to greet us. It was no one other than Herbert Ernie himself.
Where'd you finish?
He questioned. Whoa, Herbert, what are you doing here? I replied.
I'm an Uber driver. I drive ladies and ladies only. If any of you boys want a ride with taxi driver Ernie, then you'll have to pay extra.
Herbert said as he gave us a creepy wink. No, Herbert, I will not allow you to affiliate with us any longer. You've ruined so many things for us. We do not intend on adding tonight onto that list. Just go and leave us alone before I call the cops, I explained to him.
Don't worry, boys. And it you boys be. Once this lovely lady hops in the backseat, we'll be all set.
No, I am not getting in with you. You are not my Uber, replied Sophia. Just then, another car pulled up behind Herbert's minivan, and that car was the real Uber. Whew, finally, Sophia stated, relieved. Hey, what are you doing? The Uber driver yelled at Herbert.
I'm the real Uber driver,
Stated Herbert. No, I'm getting in with him, replied Sophia, referring to the real Uber driver.
Let's not play hard to get now. Who would you rather get funky with? The fake scammer Uber driver or the lady Uber driver?
Herbert said. Sophia didn't even say any more words. She got in the car of the real Uber driver and they sped off. And yes, again, I had a feeling that Chad would most definitely not be getting any more dates from Sophia after what happened that night. Anyway, even though Sophia had left, it didn't mean Herbert was done yet. No, rather he was far from. Herbert got out of his minivan and landed in the crab pose directly in front of us.
Seems like it's only us fellas now.
Herbert looked ridiculous. He wore a full and complete taxi driver outfit that involved leather dress shoes, khaki pants with vertical stripes, a button-up wool sleeveless vest revealing his chubby arms, and a typical cap to top it all off. Run! Colin shouted. We all did just that. Steve, Colin, and I took off in a fast sprint, while Frank and Chad were a bit slower. Luckily, Herbert still wasn't able to catch up, as he's quite chubby, though we didn't care. We ran. We ran past the abandoned restaurant and off into the golf course. We went down the hill and into a small patch of trees, where we found an abandoned barn. We went inside said barn and hid some hay bales. 15 minutes passed, and still nothing. We checked, and soon figured that the coast was clear, which luckily it was. We went back up to the abandoned restaurant and looked at the road. Herbert's minivan was gone, so we assumed that he left, and we let our guard down. Huge mistake. It was around 9 p.m. now, and it was all the way dark outside. We were getting hungry and thirsty, and so we all agreed to send Frank on a gas station run. Steve gave Frank some money and sent him on his way. 30 minutes later, Frank arrived back with our food and drinks. Steve, Colin, and I all got Monster Energies, the ultraviolet flavor. Frank got a Sprite, and Chad got a protein shake as usual. We also got a bunch of protein bars and snacks as well. The next few hours were pretty chill. We simply hung out around the picnic benches outside. We got a campfire going in one of the outdoor fire pits the restaurant had, and Steve blasted music on his Bluetooth speaker, which we were able to do, as there were no houses around like I previously mentioned. Though, around midnight, and something crazy happened, and that, unfortunately, was what made this night a night to remember. Here's what happened. We had decided to temporarily retire into the dining area of the restaurant to play some games on Frank's Xbox. The entire property was dark, except for the light illuminated off the monitor screen. That's when we saw it. Headlights. They were down in the parking lot and were facing the building. Person in the car, they just sat there, flashing their high beams on and off repeatedly. Who could that be? I wondered.
Right? Probably just some motherfuckers from school coming to fuck with us.
Now get back to the game.
Steve replied. I didn't believe Steve though, because my gut told me that something else was up. Colin felt the same way too. We both got up and went outside to investigate. That's when the mysterious car revealed itself yet again to be a blue minivan. Oh no, Colin said dreadfully. I don't blame him. The driver then stepped outside. It was no one other than Herbert Ernie himself. I could tell because the minivan's headlights cast his shadow directly onto the pavement. It highlighted his every feature, everything from the potbelly all the way to that one wart on his cheek. He simply stood there, doing nothing. Colin and I stealthily made our way around the building and hid behind the basement door, closing it behind us. We then went deep into the basement and hid more. We ended up hiding behind a shower curtain in the nasty bathroom that was down there. And yes, I had no idea why there was a shower in a restaurant bathroom of all things. It had been a full 10 minutes until we heard the faint sound of the basement door open from down the hall. It was Herbert.
I'm gonna find you, boys,
he said tauntingly. 2 minutes later, Herbert entered the bathroom that Colin and I were hiding in. We had to hold our breath so Herbert wouldn't hear us. It was silent for another 5 or so minutes, and we were getting impatient. We eventually subconsciously reasoned that we'd make a run for it. We would make it past Herbert and out of that basement no matter what. We took action. However, that whole plan went straight out the window when we witnessed Herbert's current state of being. He was sitting on the toilet taking a shit. Exclaimed Herbert with great enthusiasm. That was it. The final straw. We had had enough. Enough of Herbert and enough of this night. Colin got out his phone and called the cops. 5 minutes later, the cops arrived. Herbert was taken away. We then had to go back upstairs and explain to the others why we had to cancel the night early. I think we were all traumatized in a way. And that then concludes the neighborhood secret.